Welcome to the People Sports Podcast. I'm Charlotte Wilder. He's Mark Titus. We made it through Oxford, Mississippi. Mark, how you feeling this Monday?
We made it through. Yeah, we made it through Mississippi. It's raining out here in LA, Charlotte. That's
garbage.
That's how I feel. It's not. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it.
I didn't know that was legal.
Yeah, I woke up. It rains every so often, and when it does, you just kind of like wait a few hours for it to go away because you're like, this isn't right. And yeah, usually it does, and it hasn't. And it's been raining all day, and it's Monday, and we're doing our best to make it through. But we're here today. We had a great time.
We really are doing. We're just doing our best. Okay.
But we had a good time in Mississippi, and yeah, that's that. And we're down to the final week of this thing, this road trip.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I really can't. I'm like, I think there was a moment in Oxford. First of all, the crowd in Oxford who came out to the library bar was awesome. That was really. I want to shout out to everyone who came out to there, where the cover charge was way more money than anyone should pay to hear us talk.
Yeah, someone said the cover was $60 to get in that night, and I said, "What would it have been if we weren't there? Like 150?"
I think it went up later in the night after our show when we weren't talking. I mean, I just had a moment where I looked at myself in the mirror before we did our live show, and I was like, I don't think I've processed much of what's happened these past 8-7 weeks because it's been go, and then I was like, where am I and what time is it and what day is it? And like, I think it's gonna hit us in a few weeks, be like, whoa, we did a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah. This is the part though. This is the part of the job where you feel like the absolute worst, because like every stop we're going on and talking to people, everyone seems to be in agreement that this is like the most insane job that we have, that we get to do this for. They're like, so you're doing what now? You're just going around the country to a college football game? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that must be just like the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, yeah, it definitely is. I have no idea where I am at any given time right now. I have no, and I have a tendency to like want to complain about a handful of things, because like the great part about this is very obvious and very outward. And hopefully we're doing our job well to, like, if you're following along on the tour with Charlotte and I, you see all the fun we're having, but we know how social media works, Charlotte. We know how we put out the fun stuff. Right. And then we go to our hotels and we're just like, what time zone? You know how many times I've asked people, like, what time zone are we in? What day is it? It's
usually Central Time, if that's helpful. Yeah. I've found it's usually no.
So I have to check myself, because like whenever anybody asks me how it's going, in my mind, I think I don't need to state the obvious, which is that like, this is cool. It's a cool gig. So I'm just like, what's surprising is that I have not had a real meal of food in 2 months now. I've just been eating like barbecue and tailgate food, and like that's all I eat. And I have no idea what my health looks like right now, but we'll just
gives me a lot of appreciation for fans of teams who tailgate every weekend and follow their team, because it's not for the faint of heart. Like, it's been the most incredible opportunity to go to these different places. And it takes a lot of energy. And so all I can think of is like, I don't think people realize if you're a fan of, say, if you're an OU fan and you not only tailgate, or let's use Ole Miss because their tailgates are insane, and you tailgate every weekend at the Grove and you set that up and you make it through a full day, and then you go on the road to root your team on, like, it's a level of commitment that I don't see from NFL fans or from pro sports teams. Like the commitment to college sports is one of the most inspiring things. It makes me feel like anything is possible, that like humans will eventually cure cancer, because like people are this committed to something, that like, if you're this committed to college sports, we're going to be okay.
If the people we were out with at the bar on Friday night till 2 a.m. Can be drunk as a skunk and wake up hungover and still get to the Grove by 7 somehow, some way, and then get after it starting at 7 a.m. all day, and then go to the stadium and watch their team play for 4 hours, and then go out that night, and if they can do that week after week after week, what chance does cancer have?
Seriously, like we are like the world's gonna be fine because like there's clearly the stamina and the energy to figure stuff out. But Mississippi the Grove was wild. Like should we go through the report card?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Do the vibe check. What is your initial if you were to describe your time at Ole Miss to people using feelings, the feelings that it conjures up when you talk about it.
I think I said this to you when I was there, but Oxford, it is shocking that town can support a college football team as good as it is for the size that it is. Like, everybody knows I grew up outside of Boston, and Oxford feels like one of the wealthy towns outside of Boston. Like, it was that size. It's small. It's a little town square. There are all these adorable boutiques, like really good restaurants. And you get maybe 2 minutes outside of Oxford and there's just fields. So it's nothing. There are maybe 3 roads in Oxford and the population increases by like 60,000 people every home game. And so it felt, but there were also, like you pass signs where they're not ignoring their history. They're like, this is where the Union Army burned the place to the ground. And you're like, oh, wow. So it's a very complicated place. And yet it's also like everybody knows everybody. It feels really cozy when you're there. Like it's lovely. But it's a little, it's sort of strange to just be like, oh my God, this is the cutest place in the world. How is there a major football program here that can support the infrastructure of what that entails?
It is the one place that I've been, and I have not. I'm trying to think of like my experiences in the South, because I've been to every. I want to say I've been to every state in the South. I've been to a lot of the cities in the South. I've not been to a lot of the college campuses. But I like to think that I have some experience traveling throughout the South, and Oxford, Mississippi, to me, for better or worse, was like the most unmistakably Southern place I've ever been, where I'm like, you could not, this entire vibe right here could not exist anywhere other than the South. This is so obviously, if you knock me out, put me into a coma, and then I woke up in Oxford, I'd be like, oh, I'm in the South, like in 2 seconds. I'd be like, I'm in the South. Cool.
Yes.
And I think like a lot of people outside the South, like, I don't know how much people pay attention to their history books, but there has been a conflict amongst the people in the South and the people not from the South in this country that has gone on for quite some time. So I think people that like aren't from the South, like you hear me say that and you're like, oh my God, so you're telling me stay away from Oxford and never go to Oxford. And I'm actually telling you the opposite, because all the things that you would celebrate about the South, the culture of the South, like how friendly people are, the great food, the way people dress is like undeniably like nicer and classier, and they love that. They get off on that. They're like, yes, I do wear a tie to a football game. What of it? What like you don't? You're telling me you wear a jersey and jeans? Disgusting. Yeah, you're such a slob. I'm like, what year did you graduate from Ole Miss? You're like, no, I dropped out of high school. I just I just wear a tie because I'm classy. I'm like, what is this place? So it that was my impressions of Oxford. Was like it had the Southern charm through and through. It was very, very, very tiny. Someone explained it. Was it Ferris on our crew? One of the guys on our crew is from Mississippi, Clarksdale, I think is where he's from, like an hour west of Oxford. I think he explained to me that it's called that they call Oxford the Velvet Ditch. I want to say was what he called it, because it's he's like, listen, we are aware of the PR of Mississippi nationally. We are aware that people do not plan vacations to Mississippi often. And he's like, what makes Oxford so cool is that as the whole state is rightfully in some ways deserving its reputation as for some of the things that it's not great at, which is frankly a lot of things. Yes. Oxford itself is like this beacon, this oasis that exists of like higher education and a ton of money and great food, as you said, and great people. And you're just like, am I sure that I'm in Mississippi? You're like refreshing your map. You're like, this is Mississippi? Are we sure this is Mississippi? And then everyone there that's like everyone, even people from Mississippi are like, well, this isn't actually like Mississippi. This is just Oxford. Like,
I saw t-shirts that said Velvet Ditch on it, like at bookstores. And, the guy who drove me, because we flew into Memphis and then it's like an hour 20 drive, and it ended up being cheaper to have someone drive me than a rental car because rental cars are messed up right now. The guy who drove me, he was like, look, Oxford is different. he was like, we have incredible public schools. He said they're also really good private schools. Like, it's very family friendly. And he was like, everyone knows everyone. And it's very much if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours town. But he also said something that I kind of think was a much more positive spin than it sounds when you say like it's a small town. He was like 30% of people who go to school here stay here.
Yeah.
Like he was like, you can have a really nice life here. And it's not a high cost of living. Like you can have a lovely house. It's very family friendly. I saw a ton of kids in the square. He was like, I mean, you want to get your kids out of there by 10 on a Saturday, but like, you know, but it was, so it's at once a small town, which I think most people would hear and think of as insular, and yet also very welcoming.
I cannot recommend it enough. If you're listening to this show and you've probably never given much thought to ever visiting Oxford, Mississippi, or going to Ole Miss or anything like that, I cannot recommend it enough. You should check it out. It is a place that like you should experience for, as I said, for better or worse. Like maybe it's not your thing, but I would suggest people go because it did feel very unique. It is a place that I've never really. I don't really know what to compare it to. I'm sure people from the South are like, no, it's not like Tuscaloosa is not that much different, or Athens, Georgia is not much. I've never been to a football game in Georgia or at Alabama. So maybe I'm the wrong guy to be talking about this, but Oxford felt very, very different. And I did love a lot of it. It felt like it was, well, we'll get to the parts I did love in a second. It was very, very small though. It was very, like, we tried to book hotels. I think we talked about this. We tried to book a hotel like 3 months out for this game. There were no hotels there. I
think 5 years out, there are no hotels on game
days.
days.
You ended up getting, like, by the grace of God, someone canceled, and like someone in the athletic department got one hotel for you. I think that's how it happened. Like someone in the athletic department's like, we could maybe.
It took the athletic department at Ole Miss to like pull strings for me, which is so gracious of them, and I'm extremely grateful, but it really was like by the grace of God.
Yeah. And I ended up staying in an Airbnb like 2 or 3 miles off campus. That was right by an airport. That it was like a 3-bedroom condo. I looked it up on Zillow because of course you do. If you stay in an Airbnb, you always look it up on Zillow. I think it was valued at like $121,000, and it was 3 bedrooms.
Stop it! I can't. We live in places where if I look at real estate anywhere else, I just want to like walk slowly into the ocean because I'm like, I've made life choices that mean I pay too much money to live somewhere.
The point of bringing it up though is we couldn't even find a hotel, and I think like a lot of people from Mississippi or from Oxford saw that as a point of pride. They're like, oh yeah, we don't mess around. Game days, we sell out. It's hard to get a ticket. It's hard to get into town. It's hard to. I'm like, this isn't a good thing. Like, what are we? So
You're like, what if you built a few more hotels?
Yeah, like so life is inconvenient for you, and that's like a positive. That's what you're telling me. Like it's great. It's crazy. Every bar is absolutely packed. It's shoulder to shoulder. Every game day is nuts here. And I'm like, so we need more hotels and bars is what it sounds like. That's all I'm hearing. Like supply and demand. Have we taken Econ 101 here? Like if you could make a killing if you just open another hotel.
Right. You jack up those prices, baby.
Yeah. What are we doing?
I will say, I think it was the most full stadium I've seen yet on the tour.
Oh yeah, it was packed. Yeah,
don't you think? I mean, it was also Eli Manning Day, which I think we can get into now, or we can go through a report card. I don't know. I'm all over the place with this one because like it was the most different place I've been. That all my thoughts are still sort of formulating. But it was clearly like a very proud day for Ole Miss to have Eli's jersey retired. So maybe that contributed to it, but I think it's like that every weekend.
I got that feeling too, that's just how it is. And again, everyone seemed to wear that as a point of pride, and me being the diva that I am, it's like, you should not be proud of this. We need more hotels. We need more restaurants.
One more hotel.
We need more infrastructure.
Mark's review of Oxford, please. Another Courtyard Marriott, please.
One hotel short. Yes. We were one hotel short from being a great trip. What was the best food you had there?
The best food I had. So, the 2 shoots that I did on Thursday were both in the square. We did one at Landry's, which is one of, ranked as one of the best menswear stores in the country. And honestly, was one of the coolest stores I've ever been to. They've got amazing memorabilia, and the menswear, like they dressed me up as a guy going to a football game. Mm-hmm. And I put on a suit and I've literally never felt more powerful. I was like, oh, I understand why white guys in suits like just do whatever they want, because you feel an incredible amount of power when you're wearing a really nice suit. So highly recommend everybody trying a suit on at some point. And then we did a shoot where a bartender, Tarek David, taught me how to make some, game day drinks. But in between, we had a second to go to City Grocery, which has won James Beard Awards, and ate. I had a beer battered fish sandwich with tartar sauce that was maybe the greatest sandwich I've ever had. And I was like, oh wow, okay, so they know how to do food down there. And I think he has a few restaurants. I can't remember his name right now. His first name is James. My brain's a little broken, but that was the best thing.
A beer battered fish sandwich with tartar sauce.
Yeah.
And was it elevated, would you say, Charlotte? Would you say that this dish was elevated?
I would say that it wasn't deconstructed, but it was elevated.
Okay.
It was elevated. What about you?
Along the same lines, I don't know if it was the best piece of food I had, but like when I was told the story, I was dying laughing that someone at a tailgate in the Grove gave me a corn dog. They're like, I was just walking by
what's the deal?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. This is why this was the best food. So I'm walking through the Grove, and I kept seeing corn dogs. I was very confused by what was going on, but I just was like, I don't know. I like corn dogs. Who doesn't, right? We all eat hot dogs. It's a hot dog on a stick. It's a deep fried hot dog on a stick. What's not to like? Right. But then I was seeing a disproportionate amount of corn dogs. I was like, this is a lot of corn dogs. Corn dogs, Jackie. So I'm walking through the Grove, and a guy just yells Titus, and I turn, I look, and he's like, you want a corn dog? And I was like, I guess. And so I take the corn dog. Corn dog tasted like a corn dog, Charlotte. I'm not gonna pretend like it was the best corn dog I've ever. It was a corn dog. Yeah. But then I started asking around. I was like, what is going on? Why are there so many corn dogs? So apparently LSU fans, I don't know if this is just Ole Miss or if this is like all the SEC or whatever. Somewhere along the line, someone made the observation that LSU fans smell like corn dogs because they are carnival people, I think was the insult. That like the LSU fans go to carnivals and smell like corn dogs. And so the corn dogs were to taunt LSU. Like it was LSU week. So it's like, let's all eat corn dogs and mock the LSU fans. That was I could have been, honest to God, that's the other part about all these trips is like, you could say anything to me and I'd believe it.
Yeah.
Especially after going to Texas A&M where I was like, there's no way that's true. And then I'd look it up and I'd be like, oh my God, every single one of these traditions you guys have is true. But that was the story that was told to me, was that like people in the SEC call LSU fans corn dogs. And then I looked it up and there was like a little bit of evidence to back it up, but I don't know. So that was the funny, I don't know. Like, so the food itself wasn't the best, but that was the most memorable thing, was eating that corn dog and having a guy explain to me why
I'm really
we eat corn
glad.
dogs.
I'm so glad. I was going to ask if you knew what the deal with that was, because I went into one of the stores that sold gear and it had a sign that said, our women don't eat corn dogs. And I was like, what the hell is up with, I was like offended. I was like, first of all, as a woman who loves a corn dog, what is this all about? Don't know why they had to call it women specifically, but we were like, a few of us walked in it was between shoots and I was like, where are we? What is this? And now I get it.
There you go.
Sense.
It's
also
LSU
though, as someone who fell in love with LSU, I take offense to that.
You're a corn dog.
I take offense to that.
Yeah. Do you eat corn dogs, Charlotte?
Yeah, I also am corny, so like I get it.
There you go. You're a corn dog eater and an LSU fan. It all checks out.
And a corny person.
And a corny person. It all checks out. So we see.
All right, fair. Okay, I get it. All right.
Oh man. What was your favorite thing? What is the one thing you love most about Ole Miss that you wish you could take home with you, that you wish this was a thing in your life?
Honestly, this is going to make it sound like there was so much that was really cool about it. And I don't want to make it sound like this is like I'm city planner or something, but I loved how walkable everything was. Like you can walk from the stadium to the town. You can walk anywhere in the town is like a 400-foot radius from itself. And a lot of the places we've been, the stadium will be like 3 miles away and you have to figure out how to get, but I really liked the walkability. It felt like a campus. It felt like, it felt like a college campus that the town was there to support in a way that I actually thought was pretty cool, because especially where I went to school, there was like a huge divide between the college and the town in a way that was not positive. And I think it's gotten better, but like it was very, very clear that like, oh, these are the college kids and this is the college, and then here is the town, and they are not integrated. And I think they've since been better about that. But I really liked how much of a sort of seamless, it wasn't clear where Ole Miss started and Oxford ended, or where Oxford began. And, you know, I liked that. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because like, honestly, Ohio State's campus is probably as big as like the entire city of Oxford and the entire Ole Miss campus. Like,
yes.
It's yeah. So that is a good point, that like having because I used to, my dorm at Ohio State was on the opposite side of the basketball arena, and I didn't have a car my freshman year. And if I couldn't get a ride from like Greg Oden or Mike Conley, who were like the good players, the freshmen weren't supposed. Freshmen weren't supposed to have cars, but like Greg and Mike somehow had cars. And if
you don't say.
Yeah, weird how that worked out. I wonder what it was. Maybe there was a clerical error where they thought they were sophomores or something. So if I didn't get a ride with them, I would have to walk to practice, and it would take like 45 minutes to an hour to walk to practice, just on 2 points on campus. It would take forever to walk to campus. And yeah, you're exactly right. Like having a place where you could like walk would be absolutely money. For me, it was when we were at the bar at the library after our show on Friday night. Yeah. And the place starts filling in, and then I forget what time it was, maybe 10 p.m. or something. They played Gary Glitter, Rock and Roll Part 2. Which is otherwise known as the song where it goes, da-na-na, hey, da-na-na. It's that song. And the entire bar just lost its mind because as we very quickly found out, that is like the I don't know what, it's not the fight song, but it's like a song that I don't know how to explain it, because they played it every, it was like might have been the first song on Jock Jams. It's like a song that's played at stadiums all over the country. So I'm not pretending this is an Ole Miss thing, Charlotte. It was just it triggered all the fans to start doing their hottie toddy chant. And I tried to study it for as long as I could, and they did it at the game too. I never learned the words. Did you ever learn like the full words of
No.
Hell
no, yeah. It for some reason it's like the most it is the coolest chant. I think that's the coolest chant I've heard. It's like hottie toddy, gosh almighty, hell yeah. And then you lost me.
Bingo bango, tingo tango.
Ringo,
who's your
Rango.
Daddy?
Yeah. I don't know, but it was, and Ferris again, not to we should just have Ferris on the podcast.
We should just have Ferris explain this. Because he did some too, where he was like right before the show, he grabs the mic and he's like, I got one question, Ole Miss. Are you ready? And he kind of does that at every stop where he's like, is everyone ready? And then people are like, yeah. And he goes, are you ready? And they're like, hell yeah. Like in unison, hell yeah. Damn right. I remember that.
Yes.
Hottie totty. We somebody.
Gosh almighty.
Where's the party? Bingo. Tingo.
Hottie toddy, gosh almighty, Eli Manning, who's his daddy?
And it just kept going. And frankly, it was a little long, like especially when they're playing the Hey song. They start, because the song has one word, it's hey. You literally say hey. They're
fitting the whole chant into that bar.
That's why we love the song, Charlotte. We all know the lyrics. You hear it one time, you're like, I know every word to that song. It's hey.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest, Mark. I didn't know that it had a name until you just said it.
Rock and Roll Part 2. Yeah.
No idea. I was just like, it's the Hey song.
Part 1 is not good, by the way. The rare occasion where the sequel is better than, I don't know. I just made it up. The sequel is better than that. But yeah, the appeal of the song is just the one word, and then they play the song, and then they go into this long chant. And then by the time they're done with the chant, it's ready to start the chant again. And I'm like, this is a little too much, but I love that anytime you can be at a bar and you play a song and like the whole place loses, like this I guess isn't an Ole Miss thing. This is kind of, it feels like every school seems to have their one song that's not their fight song that gets everybody going, but anyway, that was cool.
No,
the
Ole Miss cheer was, I'm with you. I loved it. It's for some reason, it was the most satisfying thing to listen to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You were just like, oh, it was sort of like a nursery rhyme for adults.
The other reason I love this stuff happening too is we spend some time here, 3 or 4 days, and we get to a point where we feel like we get it, You know, like we're like around campus and talking to people, and like after 2 or 3 days of this, I'm like, I kind of get Ole Miss. Like I'm kind of an Ole Miss guy myself now. I go to the store, buy some gear and wear it, and I'm like, you know, I kind of get this place. I understand it. And then you're at a bar and that song comes on and you're looking around like, what the hell is this? And it's like all the first couple of days we're there we're studying for the test, and then that song comes on at the bar and that's the test, and we're like, oh, that's right. I'm not an Ole Miss fan. I have no idea what's going on right now.
Oh, I actually didn't do any of the reading.
Yes, I did none of the reading. I failed the test. You guys enjoy whatever the hell this is. I'm going to stand over here and watch because this is
it's so true. It's so true. You can get a sense of it. But then those moments happen and you're like, oh yes, I am out of my element. And that's sort of what's amazing about it. What's so fun, because you watch it happen, and sometimes like those things will happen and we'll look at each other and just be like, what? Like there's no words exchange. We're just like,
if I looked over and you knew what was going on, I'd be so pissed. I mean, how does Charlotte know what the hell? How do you know this song? And I don't,
no idea.
So we both, you kind of look at each other like we're not supposed to know this. Okay, thank God.
We're both clueless, right?
This wasn't in the pamphlet they gave you. Yeah, it wasn't in my pamphlet. I didn't.
No one explained this to you either. All right, great.
What was one thing? I kind of already went, and just to reiterate, I'll answer first. The one thing that you didn't love, mine was probably just how small it actually was. I like the walkability. I hated that we were at that bar on Friday night, and I thought to myself, I'm going to lose my voice if I keep trying to talk to people, because you got to scream over the music's playing, and you know, it was a loud bar on a college campus, or close to a college campus. You all know what that's like. But I thought to myself, I could probably use like a quieter place. I'm going to go try to find a quieter place. And I left that bar, walked around, found like 3 other loud bars, realized those are the only bars that exist in this place. I was like, I guess I'm going to call it a night at 11 o'clock, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to talk tomorrow, because I'm just like screaming at the top of my lungs, you know, to all these bros that come up to us. They're like, love you on Part of My Take, bro. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. Like, what's Bill Simmons like? And I'm like, the thing about Bill is, one thing you got to understand about Bill. And I'm like yelling that for 3 hours.
I also just want to say something that has cracked me up at every stop we go to is like, there's inevitably one guy at like every bar, every spot, who comes up to you. And it's the only time in my entire life where I've watched, like, where there's been a situation where there's like a guy and a girl, and men have come up and the guy has gotten hit on more than the girl.
The guy gets hit
like
on.
It cracks me up every single time. They're like, hey, nice to meet you, Charlotte. Oh my God, Mark Titus, dude. Like, heck. Oh, well,
but if it makes you feel better, they always inevitably, every single one of these, not every single one. Shout out to the guys who,
shout out to the OGs.
Shout out to the OGs, but a high percentage of the guys, it's so funny. I love the level of notoriety I'm at, because you'll get your ego stroked by like people recognizing you, and they're like, oh my God, Titus. And I'm like, hell yeah. And I puff my chest out and I'm like, it's me. Right. You want a picture? You want an autograph? What do you want? What do you want? Yeah, it's me, man. And I start to get the ego about myself. And then they're like, I love you on that show that's not even yours, and you appear twice a year on. you always have great appearances on those shows, man. Why don't you like ever do something for your own career? Like, you should have your own show. And I'm like, I have 30 shows.
You're like, I can't handle this. My favorite was, I don't think we talked about this last week. My favorite was some guy. I'm sorry. I'm going to have trouble getting this out because I'm laughing too hard. We're talking to fans, and we're at the Dos Equis activation where we interview fans. And this guy who's clearly had a few beverages, even though it's 9 a.m. We put him in between us. We do the whole interview, and then he goes, "Hey, is Mark Titus here?"
Oh yeah,
and you were like, I lose it laughing. Your face. We have a picture of the moment he said that, and you were like, yes. He is. He's actually right here.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, you could spend, if you're an optimistic person, to be like, a guy knows who you are. That's pretty cool, man. And then a stranger knows who you are. And I'm just like, I just talked to this guy for 3 minutes, and then he goes, who was that? Yeah. And then, because the reason he asked, if I remember right, he was like, is Titus here? Because even that part of you that's like, oh, he must be a huge fan of mine or whatever. It was like, I love you on some, like when you would go
on other shows that I've heard you
on some Simmons show, or like, is Titus here? Because I heard he like might know Ryan Russillo, and I love Ryan Russillo. Like, maybe I could tie in. And they're all like,
if it makes you feel any better, they don't even know. They're like, who's this chick? And then I do have to say, shout out to it's lovely when people have been like Charlotte, and I'm like, the one thing though that I always like, it is the most humbling thing in the world to me that anyone gives two shits about what I have to say or like listens to anything or follows along. Like, thank you guys so much. But anytime that happens, my immediate reaction is like, oh my God, someone recognized me. Was I picking my nose 2 seconds ago? Like, what was I doing? Because I walk through the world completely oblivious, being like, no one's ever known who I am my whole life. So the fact that maybe people are starting to, and they say hi, please always say hi, but know that if I picked my nose like 2 seconds before, that's just, I'm sorry.
My low point example of that was when I was super fat and I would go to the Chipotle in Columbus, closest to my house, all the time, like 2 or 3 times a day. And I'm not even like, I probably averaged like 1.8 times per day for like well over a year. I was going like 13 times a week, probably. I don't know. Where I'll never forget, I'm sitting there just like stuffing like this double meat burrito, double rice. Like you do the move too, where you just get double everything, and just, I don't know. And I'm just like shoveling using my hands to like scoop up rice and shovel it into my face. And I'm on Twitter with one hand and like shoveling food into my hand. And I'm scrolling through Twitter, and I see a guy that had tagged me in a tweet that was like, just saw Club Trillion at Chipotle. And it's a picture of me like going like this.
Stop it. Oh, no.
And it was like a paparazzi type shot where like the guy never even came up to talk to me. He was just like walking, like he had got his pickup order and saw me and like snapped a quick pic. And I was like scrolling through. And I was like this, and then I like look up and I was like,
that is a low point. That's pretty bad. You were like, I got to reevaluate some things.
Yeah. So, but those are the fun ones. So yeah, as you said, people recognize people are gracious to you. They're gracious to me. It's
really lovely.
It is lovely, but it's the ones that stick with you aren't the ones that are like, hey Charlotte, huge fan, love your show. Can I get a picture? Those aren't the ones you remember. The ones you remember, that stick
with me are the guy asking you if Mark Titus is here.
Yes. It's absolutely hilarious. And the two of us are at a perfect level of notoriety. We're like, that's what you need, because you don't want to get too big of a head, but it's nice to be noticed, but it's also like it's hilarious to like,
you got to be brought back down to earth,
to just be the roller coaster that happens in like 10 seconds of like
oh yeah
I know you for the reasons you don't want me to know you. You're like, damn it.
We're like, what about our show? Do you like our show?
What show?
I know.
Charlotte, whatever happened to you after you left Sports Illustrated? I loved you on Sports Illustrated.
Someone asked me that. Someone tweeted the other day, whatever happened to Wilder things? I was like, what? I mean, I was like, fair question, first of all. Second of all.
Yeah, so I said it was how small it was. What is there anything that you didn't? You already said, right?
Yeah, I'm really in my brain, like there's a low level of computation going on right now. I think the congestion that the Grove is super cool. And it had been on my bucket list to see the Grove at Ole Miss, but I didn't realize when people are like, no, it's tense as far as you can see. It's not just tense. Like, you think of a tailgate and there are like little paths that you can get through to get to another tailgate. Right. This was picture an office with a floor of an office with cubicles.
Yeah.
And and one after another, like office space. And instead of cubicles, those are tailgating tents. And you can't quite tell where one begins and another ends, which is super cool for being able to talk to people, and everyone's super gracious and they offer you food. Didn't encounter a mean person while we were there, but it's hard. You can't walk anywhere. Like everything
it was very congested. Yeah.
Yes. And I was just, and I got sort of turned around. So I think like maybe if there were a path or two between the tents, I would appreciate that.
Same. So it's a similar thing as me, which is like, this is, I get the perspective that this is charming and cool, but to me,
logistically,
all I'm thinking is just like, why not just make the Grove bigger so we have more space?
Or like
what if we created more space and more hotels and more bars? And they're like, why would we do that? This is perfect. The way
like, this is charming. And then you have to be like, you're right.
All right, final thing. What is the funniest thing that happened on the? We kind of like, honestly, some of the interactions, like those are the funniest thing. But what is there one thing that stands out as the funniest memory you have from Oxford?
Yes, and I haven't told you this yet, but when so we're on the field and it was Eli Manning's jersey retirement. He was standing in the tunnel. It was kind of wild to be there because I feel like there weren't actually that many media people. Like there was this, the CBS crew who was broadcasting the game, and there were the Ole Miss media, but I didn't see like a ton of reporters or like. So we were really kind of had a view of this thing, which is pretty much the biggest moment of Eli Manning's life, when his number is being retired next to his father's, and they are two of the three numbers that have ever been retired at Ole Miss ever. Like that's the dream, right? And he's standing in the tunnel, and he looked very contemplative. Like it was clearly a huge moment for him. And so he goes on, he thanks everyone, they retire his number, he comes off, and media started sort of surrounding him. And for better or for worse, sometimes part of this job, or I have found as someone, as like reporting on stuff or trying to get access to someone, you feel it's embarrassing and kind of shameful to go up to someone in a really big moment and be like, hey, can I talk to you? Even though I know you're with your wife and kids and like this is a big moment, but also you know how this job works, which is that there is media involved. And so I go up to Eli, I found him in the tunnel, and he was super gracious. I was like, hey, can we do a quick video? And he was like, oh, sure. And which I was like, oh, amazing. I was expecting him to be like, no, absolutely not. But he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's so cool. I'm so flustered that I have the camera out and the video on facing towards me. So it's ready. Literally all I have to do is press record on the video. I managed to screw it up and take a flash photograph selfie of me and Eli Manning. And the flash goes off and we're both like, whoa. And I was like, oh God, I am so sorry. And then I'm like fumbling with the phone, trying to get it back to video. And like, thank God we get it back. He gave a great answer as to what hottie toddy meant to him. But that was the funniest thing where I was like, oh my God, I just took
felt very old trying to access.
And the picture itself is so funny because I have like four chins, and Eli looks great because it's like one of his eyes in like the frame, so he's mostly not in it.
He looks great because he's not looking
awful. And so that was pretty funny. That I was like, that I deserved that. I did that to myself. Yeah,
that's great. My funniest moment was when we were doing the live show and you were waxing poetic about how charming Oxford was, and I was like, yes, Charlotte. I was like, there is something about this place. It's just romantic. Like that was the word that just kept. And as I was saying that, I look over and there's a dude in a camo hat with sunglasses on in the bar. It wasn't even sunny in there. It wasn't quite nighttime, but it was like you didn't need the sunglasses on. And he had his jeans on and his boots, and he was just grabbing his crotch and pointing at one of his friends, like sitting behind us, and just like laughing. And then he raises his beer, and like the whole, it was just like it was a dude. It was like a very proud redneck that was just having a moment with his buddy where he's just grabbing his nuts. And he's like, yeah. And I was so prepared to like go on this monologue about I was like, there's just something about this place that like, and now I understand why so many writers live here. Yes. And like, musicians come out of this area of the country, and like the art like that, it must be inspired. You just see this guy grabbing his nuts. He's like, yeah, Dale, right here, buddy. Yeah.
Like, you need another beer, man.
And I just said, you know what? Never mind. Yeah, you're like, we are still in Mississippi, I suppose.
You know what, Mark? Two things can be true at once. Two things can be true at
once. So there it is. That is the report card on Oxford, Mississippi. Great time. Again, I recommend it. Can't recommend it enough for those who have never been. Go check it out for yourself. I mean, make it make sense. I suppose. Like, don't go to, if Ole Miss is playing like Louisiana Monroe in a football game that they're going to win by 40. I can't recommend maybe going to that. But like, if Ole Miss, Bama are playing, Ole Miss-LSU,
do it. Absolutely do it.
You should go. Yeah, definitely go if it if it's something that you
there were two bucket list items that I had before we even knew this tour was happening, which was a night game at LSU, which we've gotten to do, and get to tailgate at the Grove. And they are both, people say never meet your heroes, and I think in this case they'd say like never do your bucket list items for fear that they don't live up to it. They live up to it. Go. It's really cool.
All right, what else is tickling your fancy in the world of sports? World Series?
Well, listen, the Astros, man.
Mm-hmm.
I have thoughts. I don't know that there has ever been a more obvious answer for who to root for in a finals, World Series, but whatever, like a championship. than Astros Braves.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think.
Can you think of one?
Maybe.
Maybe.
No, you know what it was? You know what it was?
Yeah,
when Dirk played with the Mavs, was playing LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, and Dirk was sick, and LeBron and D Wade were like fake coughing to mock like him being sick, and the LeBron had just formed the super team in Miami. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like other ones, but I know what I understand.
It was also,
point taken.
It was also Cubs, Indians.
Oh, really? You thought that was obvious? Who to cheer for?
I mean,
because the Indians had a long drought too. I didn't know. I guess I was living in Ohio, so I was surrounded by people that were cheering for the Indians. And
at the time, I remember doing a search of. I think I did. You can do a Google Trends thing,
mm-hmm.
and the only place that people were searching Indians more than Cubs was Ohio.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's funny because
maybe that was
to me. It was very split because like I saw all sorts of Indians friends, and I felt like a loner being the one guy in my community that was cheering for the Cubs. But,
yeah,
that's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
Anyway, but point taken. Yeah, this is very, very obvious, which is interesting though because I think people historically maybe don't love the Braves because they in the 90s they were like very, very good, and they had a large presence with the TBS. You know, showing games nationally. And it was like, I remember thinking like the Braves were like the National League version of the Yankees almost. That like it was those two teams were just like inevitable. And like whether, I think the Braves won. Did they win in 99? I don't think so. I think they made it 99. The Yankees beat, I don't remember.
They made it. They didn't win. The Yankees won.
They won it in 95. And then the Yankees won it in 96. I don't know, but the Braves had the run in the 90s. I think they only won one, but it felt like they were there every year. It felt like they were in contention. They were kind of like the Dodgers are probably now, where it's like the Dodgers have actually only won one, but on the National League side, it feels like the Dodgers every single year are winning the World Series. So yeah, it is interesting because to me, growing up, the Braves were not a team that people would rally behind, but I think this Braves team is very likable. I think Freddie Freeman is like kind of the face of the Braves, and he's certainly a likable guy. And the Astros are the exact opposite of that. Everybody hates Astros.
And I also think, Mark, that Atlanta sports in general have had it so bad in the past 5-10 years that like everyone's like, you know what? Well, we really hope you have this one. And the Astros cheated to win their last World Series. It is almost wild to me that they're like let back in. Do you know what I mean?
Who let them back in? I thought we kicked you out of this party.
They faced very little retribution. They didn't even have to face the stadiums in 2020 because of COVID. Now, sure, they've gotten booed, but like I don't think it's the way it would have been.
So here's my question. If the Astros win the World Series, does this – my fear is – and I made the argument, by the way, that the Jose Altuve redemption tour is coming. I don't think this year is – I don't think like if the Astros win and Altuve's MVP – I don't think everyone's walking away from it like, oh, maybe I was wrong about the guy. I think he's got to switch teams. I think he's got to go to a different team.
He can't do it as an Astro.
Yeah, I don't think it can happen as an Astro. But my fear is that the Astros, if they win the World Series this year, that almost lends credibility to the theory that the cheating wasn't actually that big of a deal because it was just like kind of a, you know what I mean? Kind of like how the Patriots cheated to win like basically every Super Bowl and everyone was like, Tom Brady's a fraud. And then Tom Brady won a Super Bowl without cheating. Yeah. With the Buccaneers.
You're testing me a little bit on this one, but you know what? I see where you're going with it. I'll let you have it.
Are we worried about that? That like if the Astros win, then all of us that were complaining about cheating, maybe we have to be like, okay, we have to, we're not going to give up the fight. Let's be honest. We're not going to go like, okay, we were wrong. It's not how it works as a sports fan, but we're going to have to regroup. We're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what the point of attack is because maybe banging on trash cans can't help that much.
Actually win the whole thing. Wow, I hadn't thought about that. And now that you say it, I think it's even more imperative that the Braves win because you're right. You're right. That will if the Astros do it this year with largely the same team, to be honest. I mean, some coaches have changed, players obviously have changed, but like it's not completely different.
A lot of familiar faces. A lot of familiar faces. Yeah.
Then I think you're right. I think it'll give Houston, Houston fans will become the worst. That's what'll happen. They'll be like, oh, so now everyone who said we're cheated, like we can do it on our own. Like, and it's like, yeah, but you still did that. You still ruined people's careers because like pitchers are still not in the majors anymore because you guys banged on trash cans, you stupid idiots. Like, come on.
You ruined Darvish, you sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Also, Houston doesn't have anything else. The Rockets are not good. The Texans are very much not good. And this is like, I think this is just be an eruption of, because I think Houston fans realize that baseball's all they got right now in terms of like superiority over the country. So when the Astros win, it is just going to be however many months the baseball offseason is, 5 months of just like, suck it, America. 2 months. Yeah, a month and a half. And then opening pitch comes and they're right back where they started. Just like, we're the defending champs. Kiss our the Braves have to win. We need the Braves to win.
For America's sake, and so that people don't. Yeah, no, the Braves have to. I'm rooting for the Braves now.
It is interesting though, because I do remember a time when the Braves, like the idea of saying like the Braves are America's team and everyone's rallying around the Braves. That would be very controversial itself. But I think you're right that enough time has passed since the 90s, and we've watched Atlanta choke and everything a million times.
Literally there's not a sport. I don't think there's a sport they haven't choked in.
Yeah, that now there's something endearing about the Braves, and the fact that they're playing the Astros helps a lot. It's kind of like, honestly, like not to bring everything back to LeBron, but we talk about sports, so you kind of have to. LeBron on the Cavs against the Warriors when they had Durant, and and you're like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm cheering for LeBron. I want LeBron. LeBron's an underdog, and I hope LeBron gets his done, because screw Durant joining the Warriors. I can't cheer for that guy and that team. No.
Totally. But it's a good point, because I think the Braves were the team of anyone in the South who lived anywhere where there weren't professional sports or where college sports were the thing. Like the pro sport, everybody I know who grew up in the 90s, in any neighboring state or any state that's not, any state between Texas and say North Carolina, like you're a Braves fan because those are the games that they showed.
And it's funny. It's funny meeting people from the South, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas." So I'm like, obviously a Braves fan. I'm like, how was that obvious? It's like
what?
It's like a 12-hour drive, isn't it?
And it's because of TV rights. It's literally because. So I think that this could be the PR that the Braves needed to like really reclaim being loved. But yeah, God, the Astros, man. And they beat my Red Sox, so screw them.
Yeah.
But one thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tom Brady. Is that what you want to talk about? Do a Tom. Share your thoughts.
Do you want me to do a Tom Brady thing?
Do a Tom Brady thing. Do Tom Brady.
Let me do Tom Brady. Hold on. So about 10 minutes before I walked in the door after getting home from 10 minutes before I got home from Mississippi yesterday, Tom Brady throws his 600th career touchdown, passing touchdown. Which is the most that any quarterback has ever thrown, because when you play until you're 70,000 years old, that's what happens. And he then proceeded to throw 5 more? I don't know. I was like, can we get a mercy rule for this game? Because poor Justin Fields, the Bears, like, someone just end this. Like, this feels unfair. You
didn't have to bring Justin Fields into this. This is about Tom Brady, Charlotte. Let's stay focused here. Sorry, Justin Fields does not play defense for the Bears. He did not play much offense either, but he does not.
Yeah, all right. I won't. This isn't about Justin. This is about Tom. And Mike Evans, who caught the 600th touchdown without thinking, tosses it into the stands. And the thing that's funny to me about this is the fan, they had to haggle with the fan for like an entire quarter to get the ball back. Yeah. Because the guy was like, I would really love not to give this back.
I would really love to make life-changing money by selling this ball. Yes. Yeah.
And he eventually gives it back in return for like, they were going to give him an autograph or like something. And I read an article that said that ball could have gone for like $500,000 at auction.
Unbelievable.
But my point is that the fan didn't have a choice. That guy can't keep that ball because he never should have had it in the first place. Second of all, he would be dragged over the it would be Steve Bartman-esque, I think, if he kept that ball. Except maybe not, because a lot of people still don't like Tom Brady. So maybe he'd be a hero. I don't know. What do you think?
I think one thing I've learned from the internet, I've learned 2 things from the internet. 2, you absolutely under no circumstances never do is never talk to the cops if you're arrested or brought in for questioning whether you're innocent or not. I've had that beaten into my head. It's like they're not your friend.
Don't say anything.
Hire a lawyer, have them talk to him. That's been beaten into my head. Don't ever talk to the cops. The other is never give up the memorabilia to the team. I've had that beat in my head. Yeah, because I think you can do it after the fact. I think you can, like, again, hire a lawyer. Let the lawyer talk to the guy or something. You know, I don't think because.
What about the guy who's?
Because you have I get it. It's not his to begin with, but it also, if this was Tom Brady's 599th career touchdown pass, and Mike Evans tosses it into the crowd, and the guy catches it, is there a single person on earth that's like, you have to give that ball? I guess maybe the team might want the ball back or whatever, but those are the rules, is that you can keep it. The same is true of like these guys' home runs that Mark McGwire breaks Roger Maris's record, and whatever happens to the ball, like the guy I remember that was a story. Like one of the Cardinals ball boys like gave it back, and he got like a $50 Chili's gift card, and he could have sold it for like $20 million. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time I read about that, I'm like, just you could still, like, I understand the being put in a position where if you're a true fan of the team, you have to respect that this would be a big deal to Tom Brady for him to have it. Like, this is more about him than me. All of that is true. But I would then talk to the team and be like, I really, really, really want to give this back to Tom. I don't want to sell this to some, bozo on the open market. But also, I could sell this to a bozo on the open market. So this is a two-way street. If I'm going to show love to you, you got to show me some love back. Just give me like 50. I don't know, whatever. Figure out what it will sell for on the open market. Give me half that, and I'll take it.
Yep.
And then I think if the guy doesn't accept that, then we as a society can call him a dick and be like, "Come on, dude, what are you doing?" But the offer of, like, we'll give you what do they get? We'll give you like a parking pass to a preseason game next year, and like,
yes,
a headshot of Tom Brady that, like,
that he may or may not have signed himself.
He didn't sign it, but we'll print his signature over top of it. Like, we'll run it through the printer.
Do you want an NFT, sir?
Yeah.
No,
like,
I mean,
what the hell?
I agree, and I don't think he could have sort of like politically as a statement for the team. Like, he can't really keep it. He can't really hang on to it, but they've got to do him a little bit better because that man, I don't know who he was. He could be an oil magnate. I could be wrong. I would bet he needs $500,000 more than Tom Brady needs a football.
Yes. And the other thing is, you can always, I don't think you should never give it to the team. I just think you should never do it in that moment, because that guy could always take the football home, sleep on it for like a week, and then be like, I need to sell this. I need to give this to Tom Brady. I don't need to sell it or whatever. Yeah. And like have the epiphany of like, what's the right thing to do? I should give the ball back. But to do it under duress, when you have the ball and like everyone's like huddling around you, and then like some guy taps you on the shoulder with a Buccaneers polo on, and is like, "Sir, I need the ball. I need the ball." I'd be like, get lost, dude. I would just
stick to your guns. Yeah, hold that ball.
I would just tuck and run, and I would just take off running.
You can also hold it, because at that point you're holding it ransom, right? You're like, give me $500,000 and you can have the ball back. And the Buccaneers definitely have $500,000.
I would take a knife and just hold it up to the ball and be like, pay me, or I'll do it. I'll do it.
Especially with Tom Brady, that would carry real weight. He's like, I'll deflate it. I'll do it.
I will rip this ball to shreds. I swear to God, I'll do it.
There will be no air pressure left inside this ball. But there was a very funny picture of the Bucs personnel guy pleading with him from the field, like looking up at the stands. Yeah, that someone tweeted out, that I just, for some reason, the whole thing just like absolutely cracked me up, because this is the stupid sports stuff that I just think is
along those same lines. Didn't Tom Brady get a jersey stolen one time out of the locker room? Is that correct? Or who was it? It was Brady, right? Out of the Super Bowl locker room? It was
Brady at the 28-3 Super Bowl.
That's right.
Because I was there, and I was interviewing.
Oh, you were? Interesting.
Well,
where were you on the night of?
I took it. No, because there was this huge commotion. I was in the Pats locker room doing the interviews there, and then all of a sudden, like, cops come in. Like, there was this, like, the stadium just turns into chaos because someone's like, the jersey's gone, and it was like this manhunt to find the jersey, and they eventually tracked it down. But it was the only thing that Boston media talked about for like 2 weeks.
I saw that Emmitt Smith, the interview he did, where he said that when he broke the all-time rushing record. Career rushing record, that he knew he was going to break it that night, and he knew that the memorabilia was going to be so desirable that he wore 4 different sets of uniforms for he changed every single quarter. He changed uniforms, and he gave, I forget what he said. Like he sold one for charity, one he gave to someone, one went into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and then one he kept for himself. And he said the one he did that because he knew that like all these people would want one, and the one he kept himself was the uniform he was actually wearing when he broke the. So he's like, I'm the only one that has the actual one. But he knew that people would want it. So he's like, yeah, here's the uniform I wore, and gave it to the Hall of Fame or whatever. I don't know.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So
Tom Brady should have done that.
You should do that.
Tom Brady at this point, because every time Tom Brady steps on the field at this point, he's going to break a record. He should just change uniforms. Yes. Like wear a different one every quarter. I think that's what he has to do.
He should.
Seriously.
Yeah. I think
you
also
give so much money to charity for that.
I think every fan should bring a bunch of baseballs to baseball games and baseball bet. Like you should bring all the equipment to these sporting events. Maybe that's what. So that way, like if you catch the football, you can do a swap-a-roo and be like, yeah, here's your football back, and you have. Maybe that's what the Tennessee fans that were throwing shit on the field against Ole Miss. Maybe the guy had gone to a golf tournament earlier and had the golf ball in his thing, and he was prepared for. Or he maybe that's what it was.
He was ready to keep the golf ball. That
someone throws a golf ball, I'm gonna do the switcheroo and throw it. I don't know.
Speaking of that, I think we should leave everyone on this note, which is that we should leave. We should, but also I want everyone to go look at how much you looked like Lane Kiffin at the Ole Miss game. In your visor and like fishing shirt.
I shaved my face. Yeah.
He was your dad.
He was my dad. Yeah. I tried that. The visor drove me absolutely nuts. I'm not a visor guy. That's one thing I learned from this trip too. I tried to put the hair spilling. Like if you're a visor guy, you have to be so carefree and fun that your hair just going everywhere at the top of the visor. You're just like, whatever, man. I'm a visor guy. You think I have time to care about this?
You're willing to look like a mushroom?
Yes. And I'm not that. I was like very much like, damn it, like this lock of hair like pops over the top, and I'm like, damn it, get back there, I kept fixing my hair. Not a visor guy. That's something I learned on this trip. So,
you know what? Maybe at Florida, Georgia, which is our final stop, I'll wear a visor and I'll find out if I'm a visor guy.
By the way, both coaches, visor guys, Dan Mullen and Kirby Smart, both visor versus visor matchup.
Oh, this is huge.
This will be huge.
This is huge, folks. I can't wait.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See ya.